Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another episode of Hanger Control. Control the experience. In my previous video on both Discord, YouTube comments, as well as even an email, I've had multiple people asking for further confirmation of exactly what Hanger Control is. I've had a lot of reference to SPAD.NEXT, Axis and O's, and that is only a small portion of what this software is. So today I'm going to tell you what is Hanger Control. If you are interested in any of my tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides as well as any future guides that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. Alright folks, so let's talk about what is Hanger Control. I've made some hints and shots at it in previous videos, some news videos and things like that, but haven't done an actual dedicated video. So we're going to go through quite a bit on this video talking about its inception, how I came to start developing it, what its motivation was. Then we're going to get into what its primary purpose is, which is what the video we talked about yesterday was. I'm going to do a real high level overview of that, but if you guys are interested in seeing the control bindings aspect of it, but we are going to talk about some new features about that already. But I will have a link to that video down in the description below. And if I happen to remember, I'll have a card up one of these directions over there. Okay, so but it does far more than that. Okay, so let's talk about from the beginning. By the way, there are chapters down below if you guys want to skip ahead and miss out on some of this, but I think it will also help you guys all to understand where I'm coming from and why this whole project started. Okay, so what started this project? I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to try to make this very, very quick. To my Patreon subscribers, I have said this to all of you guys before, both current and past. As of March, if you all are aware, I went very, very quiet with Patreon. And Hanger Control is the reason why. And the reason why I went quiet with Hanger Control and didn't broadcast it and talk about it is I didn't want to generate hype for something that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do. I really wasn't. There were multiple times I actually considered giving up on it. This whole thing has been an undertaking that I've never even tried before. I knew nothing about any of this prior to this project. But I wanted you guys to know that I'm sorry and I love you and I appreciate the support. Same thing with my YouTube subscribers, of course. But to Patreon specifically, I wanted to apologize to you all as well, given the fact that you continue to support my work. I wanted you to know where that money's been going and where that time has been going. If it wasn't for your support, I wouldn't even have been able to start this because of the financial responsibilities that I currently have. As a single full-time father, I have a full-time job, blah, blah, yada, yada. Okay. So I'm sorry, this is why I went quiet. I did not want to verbalize it and announce something that I wasn't sure that I could pull off, generate false hype, and then generate financial income based on that hype if I couldn't meet the goal. Okay, so that's why. Anyway, moving forward, what caused me to create Hanger Control? To be quite blunt, there's no way to dodge it. I'm just going to come out and say it. I'm not here to put anybody down or to call any crap. There's no way around it. SPAD.NEXT did. And more importantly, the support customer service over at SPAD.NEXT did. For years, I have broadcasted and made it very clear that SPAD.NEXT is an incredibly powerful and very amazing piece of software, and I will never take that away. Is Hanger Control anywhere near what SPAD.NEXT is right now? No, but it will be. I do believe that. I've learned enough that I think I can pull that off and reach those goals. And we'll talk about more of that when we talk about what's coming with Hanger Control. But over the years, I have had hundreds, literally hundreds, if not over 1,000 of you, my viewers, my community members, reach out to me asking for help, which, by the way, is not a problem, and it never will be. Even with Hanger Control, and after it's released, you have questions about SPAD. If I can help you, I certainly will. Again, I am not going to take away from the fact that it's an amazing piece of software. The developers, the structure behind it, it's fantastic, absolutely beautiful. And learning what I've learned with Hanger Control, it's quite the undertaking, and a lot of time and effort has been put into that. So I don't want to take away from the development or the software itself. SPAD is amazing, and if you want help, and if I can help you, I am pretty good with it, I will. Okay, even with Hanger Control being out. Please do not think that is ever a problem. Moving forward. But I've had easily over 1,000. That's not an exaggeration at this point. It's just not. Over the last 4 or 5 years of either Discord requests, YouTube comments, and emails, and on Patreon, which Patreon is what spawned the whole thing, really. But we'll get to that in a minute. Of people asking for help, and they say that they'll go to their SPAD.NEXT Discord, and they're treated like crap. Now, me personally, I've only ever had one experience with their customer service on their Discord. Yeah, he was kind of snooty, but it didn't really faze me much, but I think that's because of my background, and we're going to get to that in a minute. The being treated like you're stupid, being treated like you're a bother, I know what that feels like. A real quick life history here for me. When I first started in IT, I started with, I was coming out of restaurant management. I had built my own computers and things like that, but you guys know if you're in any kind of software development, building a computer, installing Windows, that's nothing. It's really not in the comparison to what we are doing now. And then going into technical support, I worked for a software, I'm not going to give out any names, but supporting enterprise level corporations, Department of Defense, government facilities, healthcare, you name it. I still do that to this day. So my support level is not low end, it's higher end. Okay. I'm not helping people with their phone bill, right? Not to shoot that down. I'm just trying to set the bar of where my technical support is and why this is important in a minute. I left the restaurant industry. Literally, I was a manager of a Pizza Hut. And I had a good friend of mine who unfortunately just recently passed away, actually, who talked me into, dude, he said, come over to this company, give it a shot. I'm telling you, you've got what it takes. My first day of a 5-week training, we were told that if at the end of that 5 weeks, if we retained 10% of that 5-week training program, then we were ahead of the game. 10%, that's nothing, all right? And I knew right then, like, that's a problem. That's a failure in the training class, and what's being expected from training. Anyway, long story short, we get out of training, we get on the floor, and, you know, obviously, just like everybody else, what are you told during training? If you guys need help, we're here for questions, we're here, blah, blah, blah. I had a newborn baby. I was in a job that I was scared to death I was going to get fired every day because... coming in from the restaurants, then being told you're only going to remember 10%, and then having a family to support, that was terrifying. And so you go to your escalated resources, you know, and you go with the question. And they were the type who would sit there at their computer, they'd be typing, and you'd walk up. What do you need? You'd ask your question. We went over that in training. Well, I guess that wasn't part of the 10% of training, right? Or you should know this by now. Or there's a video on this. Or there's a document on this. Sound familiar to anyone you know? And unfortunately, I think the problem with, honestly, and being completely honest, I think the problem with the SPAD.NEXT customer service is simply the fact that they forget that their end users are people who are interested in flight simming. They're not coders, programmers, and IT specialists. Okay, so it's just not. And then I think they also forget that just because you created a YouTube video that covers 13 different topics, the YouTube algorithm doesn't work like that. That's not how the search function works. It never has. Just a little tip for you guys, if any of you guys are getting out there. YouTube, the algorithm right now, and it's always fluctuating, changing, searches your search. If you search something, it goes based on the first approximately 25 characters to words, to 20 words, 15 words of your title and your description, and matches them up. So unless the specific thing you're looking for on YouTube is in that field, you're probably not going to find it. Okay? Or it's going to be much harder to find it. And I think that people forget that. And I think that's what creates some of the resentment, right? Long story short, moving forward now, okay? My point is I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to be treated like that, and it's crappy, it's shitty, it's wrong, especially when you're paying for a product. You know, if you're paying me for a product, and I can promise you guys this, if you guys decide to pick up HangarControl on its release, I'm a one-man show. It may take me a day or two. I will get to you. And I will not make you feel like you are stupid. I will remember that the people using my software are simmers and gamers and people who are doing this for entertainment and should not be treated anything less. Okay? Just tossing that out there. So anyway, what spawned it was, again, I was getting these constant requests for help, blah, blah, blah. Here I am. I'm supporting a product that's not even mine, right? Which, again, guys, not a problem. Reach out to me, please. But then I had one gentleman who joined my Patreon for one reason alone, and that was to suggest that I make a PDF tutorial guide for SPAD.NEXT. And I got to thinking about the incredible undertaking that was going to require in order to do that. And I decided, you know what? No. Like, if I'm going to dedicate that many hours, you figure my smallest aircraft guide was about 94 hours. And I think that was the Piston Duke, if I remember correctly. Where, in contrast, the 737, the 777 could be 160 hours, 180 hours of work, right? So to write a PDF tutorial guide on something like SPAD was going to be massive. And I also didn't like it felt dirty. I didn't like it. It felt icky. And so I said, you know what? Why don't I try to make my own? And that's where the process began. That's what fueled it. And I almost gave up 3 different times. Like hardcore I was done. I'm like, I'm too dumb for this. I can't do this. This is out of my league. And then 3 different times, right when I was getting ready to that point, I was feeling that pinch. Somebody would reach out. Hey man, tried to reach out. I'm trying to get help. I was treated XYZ, and that would fuel me, and I kept going. Okay, so that's how that's how HangarControl came to be. Now, again, I'm not going to take away from how amazing SPAD.next is. It is a fantastic piece of software. I have nothing negative to say about the software, but treat people like that long enough, I guess it comes to get you. And I'm not saying that HangarControl is nothing in comparison yet. It will be. I do believe that. I will be a competitor. But HangarControl does far more. So when it comes to the reference of SPAD.next, Axis and O's, let's get into the next segment of the comparisons. The control binding section, okay? This is where you're going to find some similarities. I do believe that my software already does a few things nicer and cleaner than what the alternatives do. And again, I think that's a better way to say HangarControl control bindings is an alternative to the others. Okay, I do think it has a nicer flow in certain areas. There are certain things that would be polished, and I'm very interested I can't wait to hear you guys' all feedback when it comes time to, when you guys are using it and say, hey, can we move this around? These are all things that I'm very interested in. I want to build a UI that's going to be clean. My purpose and design and all of the products that come with HangarControl, and we're going to get to those in a second, are designed to be a fluid, one-stop shop. And if at any point you guys feel there are things that can make it more fluid or easier to use, I do want that feedback. I absolutely want that feedback from you, because those are the things that I want. I want anyone to be able to pick this software up and be able to fairly comfortably, everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses of processing, but fairly comfortably be able to pick it up and understand, all right, if I want to do this, this is where I need to go, this is where this is found, have it be a nice flow, and bam, you're up and running, the races and flying. Okay, easy access. Everything for HangarControl is stored in the My Documents. Okay, there's a My Documents HangarControl folder where everything will exist. So it's easy to grab your profiles, your bindings, your aircraft bindings, any kind of backup that you want, which there's so much that this software is going to do. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. So, I wanted everything to be easily accessible to you as well as it has its own logging. Obviously, that's just, pretty much every software has logging that can be turned off and turned on at your will. I'm not going to take up space on your machine if it's unnecessary. And at the same token, it will have the ability to also live transmit to the website, any kind of error reports or things like that, as well as direct logging that will be stored on your computer that you can send to me direct if I ask for it, right? If you're reaching out to me for help. Okay, so the basis of HangarControl is the control bindings. That was probably the hardest part of this whole thing, but there's much more to it. There are 3 other softwares that are three. I don't know. We'll talk about it. I think it's 3 that are already in place. And they will be listed right here at the time of launch. They are already built. They are already in testing, and for the most part, they are already complete. Okay, it's just a matter of wiring it all together. I'm still working on the control bindings aspect to get some things done that were brought up just today. For example, just today I saw a chat in my Discord where somebody was asking about MIDI devices as well as Stream Deck plugin. The MIDI devices portion, I believe, is complete. I built it today. I saw that and said, no, it can't, but it will. And was able to put that together actually relatively easily. I was sort of shocked because it was able to wrap into everything else. Anyway, I digress. I could talk about that all day. It's been so much fun. I've really had no one to talk to about this. And then the Stream Deck plugin will be the next thing that I work on. Will those be available at the day of launch? I'm not sure. I think the MIDI device will. Stream Deck plugin, we'll see. I do have a Stream Deck XL, so I am able to test that. So we'll just see how time comes along. But let's get into what else HangarControl is. Why is HangarControl different from everybody else? Let's talk about that now. All right, so the first piece that I'm really excited to show you guys is Mods Hanger. Mods Hanger will essentially sit right underneath the control bindings. It'll either be a Mods Hanger or Apple Launcher. I don't know yet. We'll get to both of them in a second. Mods Hanger is your alternative or competitor, if you will. I don't like to say competitor. It's an alternative to Add-ons Linker. But I designed it, and it has both its pros and cons against add-ons linker in its current state, but everything functions. The idea behind it, I want you to remember that with HangarControl, it is not designated to flight simming. It is not specific to any simulator in general. You can use it for anything. It has the ability to send keyboard commands. And we all know that there's just about every single game and simulator out there will also take keyboard commands. So it has the ability to integrate with anything. Now, I'm looking into some very specific APIs, but I'm not going to mention that yet, that are outside of flight simulation as well. Racing simulators, truck driving, American Truck Simulator. You guys know I play ATS. So it's going to be, it can be used with anything. And that's why this part is important. With Hangar Mod or Mods Hangar, you have your typical, just like we did before. Okay, you're going to have your ability to create hangars, which are your sims, your games, etc. Profiles. You can break them down as such. But then within inside of the mods area in here, it has its own containers. Okay, so you're going to be able to set a default global directory, which is a repository and a target based on the profile. Okay, I don't have anything set up right now. I'm just trying to get you guys the information out. Trust me, again, this is all working. Everything works right now. But the idea behind it is you'll have a default directory for things that are easy, like Microsoft Flight Simulator, where you have a repository and you have the community folder, and there really isn't anything else that you're going to be touching in that, right? So boom, that makes it easy. Now, the cool thing about it is you can copy. The nice thing about this particular software is it will copy or link anything. Now, certain things can have a link and certain things work with copying. It all depends on what kind of process you're doing. But you create your containers. So inside of an example of a container here would be, and I've showed this before in a previous video, but an example of a container would be scenery, and more specifically, the Caribbean. Okay, you know that I like to fly in the Caribbean a lot. I go out to St. Martin. I go out to St. Bart's a lot, right? I go all over the place out in the Caribbean. So you could have a Caribbean container that is all your Caribbean scenery. And you just click a button, boom, it enables it all. And then you could even break it down, or you could bring it down to commercial and general aviation, or you could break it down by state. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Each container can be broken up however you want. The other cool thing about the containers coming, again, I can see this really being beneficial outside of Microsoft Flight Simulator DCS world, American Truck Simulator, if you're swapping profiles and trucks and map configs and things like that. And same thing with Microsoft. I guess you could actually change the config file, but we're going to be talking about that. I have something better for you for Microsoft Flight Simulator. But anyway, long story short, each container can also have its own custom directories if you want to do that. So instead of using the default repository and community folder, let's say you were doing something like I said with ATS, let's say you also had your mods folder, so were your trucks, your sceneries, your signs, whatever. Okay, but then let's say you also had a different configuration. Maybe you had a separate configuration for VR, a separate configuration for 2D, and this could be the same thing for anything, right? You could have the triple monitor setup like I've got behind me, or maybe you have another station where you want singles. You could have, and it will copy anything. So you could have a backup of your profiles, of your monitor configurations, over whatever it may be, and you can swap them in and out by simply enabling, disabling mods, and then the right side will actually show you the mods that are currently enabled. And a mod is going to be anything. It's going to be whatever containers are enabled. And it will also tell you whether or not they are linked or copied over, so that way you can understand how it's relating to the sim. Bunch of really cool stuff. Something that I'm working on in the future release for this will be dependency checks for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and then the ability to set custom dependencies for things that aren't automatic, right? So if you know that XYZ mod for your game or simulator has a dependency, you will be able to tell that container before enabling this mod, make sure this dependency is also enabled or available, right? So it will have that function as well where you can customize it. The other cool thing is it will back up anything. So if, for example, if you want it to back up what is currently there, let's say another good example here would be American Truck Simulator, your profiles, or DCS World, a default aircraft, right? Okay, you're modding an aircraft, you're modding the F-18, okay, but you don't want to lose that default configuration. If it's replacing something or copying over something, it's going to have the option to back up what is currently there first and then copy over, right? So it's going to have its own backup storage. It can do zip files. It can do open files. It can do whatever you want. Now, again, at the moment, one of the cons to it is like with Add-ons Linker. Add-ons Linker can tell you right away if a Microsoft Flight Simulator mod or add-on is broken or is not structured correct and won't work. Mods Hanger can't do that yet, but it is on the to-do list. That is something that I'm looking into. So this is one of the other apps that is coming and will ship with HangarControl. So it's all in one ecosystem where you can control all that. Let's talk about the next one. So the next application that will come with HangarControl at launch is the App Hanger. An application hanger is exactly what it sounds like. It's where all of your apps for that particular profile or simulator are going to exist. So you guys are noticing a theme here. First, you'd create the hanger, your simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator, yada, yada, yada. And then your profile, commercial, GA, Peterbilt, Kenworth, whatever it may be, right? And then what add-ons do you want, or what applications do you want to launch? So the first stage of this, after you create your profile, let's say we did Microsoft Flight Simulator and we did commercial as our profile. Okay, the next thing that we'll do is we'll come over to this window and we have a couple of different options to select an application. Obviously, we're going to probably start with Microsoft Flight Simulator, but you got a couple of different ways you can do it. You can do add from installed. Okay, now it's not going to let me do anything right now because there's no profile. Or you can do an add from shortcuts, or we can browse for an exe specifically. So first, the add from installed, it will look for any installed application that currently installed on the PC, all right? And it will look for the executable. Add from shortcuts, this is for those EXEs that are a real pain in the ass to find. Some of them are buried behind various security protocols. Remember Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 when it first launched? If you wanted to get to the actual EXE folder, you had to bypass administrative securities. You had to change security permissions on the folder. It was a pain and very much so not recommended. So what this allows you to do is if you want anywhere you want, you can create a folder anywhere you want, call it App Hanger Shortcuts, and then just copy a shortcut. Microsoft Flight Simulator, Beyond ATC, whatever it may be, Navigraph. Just copy a shortcut, paste it in that folder that you've just designated for your shortcuts, have it look there, and it will launch the app directly from the shortcut, which in my opinion is significantly easier than ever browsing for any EXE. And then of course you do have the ability to browse folder by folder by folder by folder until you find what you're looking for. Okay, and then of course you have the remove line. Now, what does this do? Many of us use it. I used to do it all the time, create batch files. This essentially does the same process, just doesn't do it with the batch file. So what it's going to do is, let's say we have our applications. We're going to have Microsoft Flight Simulator. We're going to have Beyond ATC, because this is our commercial profile. We're going to use Beyond ATC. We're going to use Navigraph, maybe the SimBrief website. That's the other thing it can do. It can open URLs. It can open websites. Okay. Even though it's part of Navigraph chart, so I don't know why you would do that. But, and then maybe, I don't know, Sim EFB, right? One of those. Or what is it? EFB for Sim for EFB? Whatever. You guys get the gist. 5 applications, right? So first we're going to have Microsoft Flight Simulator start. And then what you can do is you can set a delay. Microsoft Flight Simulator, I want it started. I want it ready before I launch anything else. So I'm going to put a 120 second delay before it fires the next one. Okay, and then after 120 seconds of running the executable from Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's then going to launch Beyond ATC. And then I can set a delay or no delay. I always recommend setting a delay, 5 seconds, 3 seconds, doesn't have to be much, but just so you don't pound the CPU with launch commands, right? It does work. I've done it with up to 10 softwares so far, and I got it fired them all up, but you know, I did watch the CPU spike a little bit, and I've got a pretty powerful machine. So anyway, you set your delay, and the delays are based on the previous command. So 120 seconds after, it launches Beyond ATC. Then 5 seconds after, it launches Navigraph. Then 5 seconds after Navigraph, it launches blah, 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 and you guys can see what it does. But we're not stopping there. The other thing this software does, and again, this already works, I want to stress that, it's already built, okay, is after you've launched all your apps, well, then you got to place them. Okay, so if you're like me and you've got a G9 49-inch monitor, what I normally do is I'll run the simulator in the middle at 2560 by 1440, and then I'll have on the sides my other side apps that we just aforementioned. Well, then you're going to take your apps and you're going to place them. You're going to place them at specific locations, and this works on single monitor, multi-monitor, doesn't matter. Wherever the hell you want to put them, it's going to, you put them there. And then it gives you the option, you guys can see right down here, save window positions. Now, save Windows positions, I should probably reword that because that's a little misleading. It will not just save their positions, it will save their size. So if you squeeze them down and squidge them and turn them and tie them in a knot and put them a little bow on top and brush its hair. And anyway, it will remember their positions and it will remember their size. So the next time that you come back to launch this profile, you'll hit launch profile. It will launch all of your applications as aforementioned, and it will put them to wherever they were in the same size that they were at the time that you hit save window position. And that's actually save window position and sizing. Now, we have one more thing that it does for the moment, but we have another one coming. We're going to talk about that as well. The other thing that it does is we've all had it where we've moved monitor configurations, or maybe after Windows update, Windows decides to throw your monitors on all kinds of different locations. I've even had Windows renumber my monitors, change the number that it's been for years, which means your configuration goes all to hell. Okay, Windows likes to tell us what we want, right? So this one, what I've ran into, especially with Microsoft Flight Simulator, is at times the sim window will be off screen. Okay, all of my monitors are still there, but the simulator itself, for whatever reason now, because the configuration changed at some point, will be off on a phantom screen where I can't get to it. And if anyone's ever tried, you can most applications, you can hold shift, right click on it, hit move, and then hit your down arrow and then move your mouse and it will move your window around. That doesn't work with Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think with Microsoft Flight Simulator, you have to do, Windows, shift, then your arrow. That's with Microsoft Flight Simulator highlighted. Tap your arrow keys until hopefully it pops up on your screen. This one, I hate doing that crap. I hate dealing with it. So what we have here, if we go to tools, we have a center all windows on recovery. What this will do is take any open window, okay, and it will lock it to the center, or not lock it, but it will send it to the center of whatever is your primary display. Okay, so whatever display is currently designated in Windows as your primary display, any open window, which works with Microsoft Flight Simulator pop-out windows too, centers them all on the primary display. And then all you have to do is reset them, put them back where you want them, hit your save Windows positions again, you're off into the races. Now, another thing that is coming to this, I can't remember what I have in here. Oh, this also has different view options here. I forgot, you guys can't see that. That is so annoying. I just dawned on me that you guys could not see that. So there is a drop-down menu that is happening right here. I'm sorry that you guys can't see it. But anyway, there's the ability to open the shortcuts folder that you designate. And then there's also an ability to adjust these columns up here on top. There's a couple of different options. There's arguments, working directories, URL, new window, meaning if you check it, let's say what URL new window is if you wanted to open multiple web pages for your flight, your game, your sim, whatever it may be, if you select the URL new window for each one of those new websites, rather than opening a new tab, it will actually open a brand new window that you can place and put where you want again. Okay. But anyway, the other thing that's coming to the application monitor is a monitor configurator. That one is basically done. I've had a couple of bugs I need to iron out when it comes to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 specifically. But in 2020, what it will do is essentially the idea behind this is for triple monitor setups. You tell it what size your screens are, center, left, and right, what size each one is. You tell it what the actual viewing is, and that's by measuring from the top corner to the opposing bottom corner of a particular screen. So you're like this, right? Top and left. The actual screen, not the bezel. You measure that distance. You tell it what that is. And then you measure the bezel. I recommend doing it with a caliper, but again, I'll do a whole video on this when it's time. But you'll give it those measurements. You'll give it the measurements from the two outer TVs or monitors, their distance between each other, right? So that way you get that full V shape and it can calculate it. And it will calculate all of the settings and fields that are required for Microsoft Flight Simulator to give you your best performance. The other thing it will do is it will also, a feature that's I'm working with right now, and I've got it working with ATS and DCS World. Microsoft Flight Simulator is being a little funky, but it will actually allow you to use full screen triple mode without the use of NVIDIA Surround. Much like if you guys are ever familiar with the software Resize Raccoon does something similar. This software will do that as well. So it will force the triple screen setup without the use of NVIDIA Surround. Because if you're like me, I hate NVIDIA Surround. I think it's garbage. And it has been for 15 years. It worked. It was great when it was the only thing out there, but there are alternatives coming around. Okay, so those are the basics that are coming. We also have there's also a specific tool that is already built. Again, I used it just the other day for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and that is the configurator. It will actually open up the configuration options, the text document, in case you want to edit those. Or if you, like for example, my example and what spawned this was the other day I was testing some things. I had switched from DirectX 12 to DirectX 11, and I broke the sim. Every time I tried to launch it after that, it crashed. So I built the software to basically, it pulls the configuration document up. I was able to manually change the setting of DirectX 12 from off to on, essentially, restarted the simulator, and obviously everything worked after that. But it will allow you to change anything you want. Anything. And there are actually some options in the config file that don't exist inside of the actual simulator GUI itself. So you have a few other options as well. And it will also back up your original configuration as well. So that way, if you do something catastrophic, you can revert to your previous build and everything will be great and dandy. Those are just a couple of the things. The other thing that we're going to be working on, it's already started. I just haven't had a whole lot to test it because I'm focusing on this part right now. But the other thing that's coming is a DCS World export software. Basically, let's say you have the WinWing Top Gun MIP that I have, the main instrument panel, and you still, even with the WinWing software, you still have to create the export. And so what this one will do is basically it will read what your Windows positions are. So your right click on your desktop, Windows display settings. It will read that. It knows what your Windows settings are. You will tell it which aircraft you want to export. It will ask you then which Windows you want to export. You know, the AMPCD, the two MFDs. Do you want the RWR? Whatever it may be. And it will pull those and create the import file for you, because there's a config file that you have to put into DCS World for those of you who don't know to make that work, and it will pop those screens out for you. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that's coming to this software. Most of it, like I said, as you guys saw here, is already built. If I had the software up and running, which I should have, or the simulator, I would have showed you guys more. But anyways, I hope that gives you guys more of an understanding of what HangarControl is, what its purpose is, how it differs from some of the competition out there, and what makes it, what makes it different from them. I want to make it very, very clear. All of the competitive software, X's and O's, I have absolutely nothing negative to say about them whatsoever. I've never had any kind of interaction with it. I do own the software, but I think I've only used it like once or twice. Me personally, I wasn't a fan of the GUI. The user interface, but that was a long time ago, so that could have changed by now too. And then you guys know it is my only issue with SPAD.next is the Forspoken. We don't need to get into that again. But I want to make it very clear, I'm not out to badmouth anyone, shut anyone down. I was asked what spawned it. I was asked what it is. I gave you guys that information. I hope this shed some more light. I hope that gives you guys some more excitement. Be sure to join the Discord. Join the Discord channel. There's a link to it. Sorry, there's something in my eyeball. There's a link to it in every one of my videos. Join the Discord. Once there is a channel dedicated to HangarControl, and once the software goes live, that channel will go live. But right now, you guys can just talk in the general chat, and that's where I found out the information today. Someone was asking about the MIDI devices and things of that nature. So please come in, talk. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe, guys, and seriously ring the bell so that way you get notified of future content on HangarControl. If you guys are interested, I plan on going miles with it. My goal of HangarControl, what is a hangar? A hangar has everything you need to make your plane fly and hopefully return home safely, right? And that's what the idea is with HangarControl. It's meant to be a one-stop shop that can control most of your simulation or PC gaming needs. So I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear your ideas. I literally did this for you. Of course, I get some gain out of it, before anyone pipes in and says, "Oh, you're charging for it." And just, yeah, okay. But the motivation was for you, my community, those who are wanting help, wanting a good product, wanting something that's going to do all this stuff, and then wanting the support that's not going to treat you like crap. So anyway, as always, guys, stay safe and healthy. I'll see you in the next one.